What the heck is that? He's wondering. Holy cow. Jeez.
He just sits up there, and you can see when he spots some prey because all of a sudden his feathers start going, his legs, and it's just a dive.
Oh, they're quick. When they're in the attack mode, they're moving. Thank you, David. Good evening, folks. And welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting of July 8th. My name is Greg Young. I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission. This open meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth, due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda, unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. The chair confirms that the board members in person that anticipate on the agenda are remotely present and can be heard by stating the following. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Diane Gouldner.
Here.
Tom Beals.
Here.
Justin Dufresne.
Here.
Kelly Marston.
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mia McDonald.
Here.
David Kane.
Here.
Very good. Some ground rules. For presenters and/or applicants listed on the agenda, I will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by roll call vote. For items of public comment, after members have spoken, I will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the screen meeting. If you're zooming in, click raise hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized. I will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify themselves by name and address only. Once the chair has a list of all the public commenters, the chair will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. And off we go. Mia, we're expecting Todd to join us, right? At some point? Okay. Our minutes from the 29th of June meeting are not ready yet, correct?
Not yet.
So we'll push those until August 12th?
Yes.
All right. First item up here is a violation, 0 Crawford Street, Cold Harbor Flood Control Site, destruction of bank. And let's see, we got a couple presenters here. Bill Saloma, I presume that's the right pronunciation. And Robert Lowell. Robert Lowell.
Yes, I'm here. Robert Lowell.
Okay, Robert, very good. Is Bill here?
Bill respond to? Thank you.
I'm going to ask him to unmute. He's muted.
Right now?
I can hear you, Bill.
Okay.
So you both are just on phone, no video?
I'm on my computer, but I do not have a video camera.
Okay,
I should be on video if this was operating properly, so I'll try to adjust that.
Just promoted him to a panelist. He should be in momentarily.
Here we are.
Bravo. Okay.
Thank you.
Bill Saloma, did we promote him too?
Just did.
Yeah, I'm going to put him there. Okay, Bill, you are still muted.
Okay, I pushed the button again. Do you hear me?
Very good. Don't push buttons.
Well, mute myself, so I click that.
All right. We all set, just the two of you, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Mia, do you want to set this up? I know that we've had issues with a number of items up there at the area. What we're concerned with here tonight, our jurisdiction, is really what's going on with the impact to the stream on that side. So Mia, why don't you go ahead and give us some details?
Sure. It was reported to our office that the stream bank had been eroded due to various type of activities. Mostly it looks like dogs entering the stream. And so we did attend a site visit with two of the neighbors. Danielle Lau invited me over, and we met with Jamie Destel, another neighbor over on Shady Lane Avenue. And when I got there, Robert Lowell and Bill Saloma, both from the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, also joined us. We viewed the eroded stream bank. The property is also a flood control facility. And so Bill and Robert are engineers with DCR charged with maintaining it as a flood control facility. And so, you know, looking at the restoration of the stream bank, they have to keep that in mind. So Bill has brought a plan with him for some proposed restoration. So we need to discuss if that's going to work for the commission and how to move forward in permitting that.
Okay.
So Bill, can you share your plan, or do you want us to try to do it on this end?
I have a PDF with the images. Do I just drag it into the window?
Do you have a share screen button, a green share screen?
Yes, I do.
Try that.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, I have the plan. I can share it.
Here
Oh,
we
there
go.
you go.
Let me see that. Okay, let me go to the first location of interest. Can you see the yellow arrow?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the yellow arrow points to the approximate location where Rob and I met the two neighbors and Mia several weeks ago. And the image just below where the arrow is pointing to is a rough concept of where we would like to install a temporary fence. And the purpose of the temporary fence would be to, as soon as we get it in, immediately just abruptly prevent the access of the uncontrolled access of the dogs going into the water and wading and making the mess that they're making.
But Robert, the yellow arrow points to a bunch of trees. I presume that the river is within that tree area?
Yeah, the point of the arrow is approximately where the sketch of the fence is. I just wanted to give an overhead view. That's the exit end of our facility spillway that would, if we had a really big flood event, water would flow through the spillway and spill into Cold Harbor Brook.
Yeah, okay.
So the plan, as we discussed with Mia, we were kind of brainstorming, trying to figure out what the heck to do, because the way it presented itself, it seemed a little bit difficult for us to imagine how we could correct this. But I think if we can install this fence 75 to 100 feet in length in a circumferential shape of sorts, we could immediately stop the access, which is causing continued erosion. And then Rob, myself, and I was hoping to get some pointers from Mia based on her experience, could get closer to a concept that we'd agree to implement, and then we would write up the plans. We'd probably hire an engineer to help us write up a plan to put in a combination of maybe some strategically placed boulders and a particular brush species that I think Mia had in mind, and maybe some others that people have ideas about. I can't really plant trees that are going to grow and mature to be, 2 or 3 feet in diameter in this location. But we can certainly put some low hanging shrubbery that comes up, maybe 4, 5, or 6 feet, and makes it difficult for the dogs to get in there. I do have to eventually remove this fence. I had to get permission from the federal agency that constructed this site. While the state owns this facility, we operate it under agreement with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. And they, in a conversation with them a couple of weeks ago, after we met last on site, they agreed in concept with putting this temporary fence in to accommodate us figuring out what to do, working with the commission on what kind of permission we might need to go in there to implement this solution. Once the plantings mature and we're happy and think that it may hold, and it's started to grow, we would pull that fence out maybe sometime like a year from now.
Yeah, that could be a
Assuming
couple
that-
years.
Well, I can't, the feds will be after me if I leave it in there. It diminishes facility readiness in their mind. It is a spillway. But we're flexible. I'm thinking a year. So the question for the commission is, are we okay with maybe just submitting an RDA to put the fence in for now? And then we would go to work on the larger plan and then maybe file a notice of intent with that plan? Is that what the commission would want? Or is there another way around this?
Well, I mean, an NOI would probably, sounds like NOI is the way to go here, Mia, right? For the long-term approach.
An NOI would be fine. An RDA and an NOI would both take the same amount of time, about, takes a month to hear it again. If you wanted to start work immediately, we could it's a friendly enforcement order. When you issue these, when you're working with people, it's just an opportunity to start work right away to fix something that's happened.
Right. I think that would be the appropriate way to move forward to get the fence in place.
I agree. I think, no need to make 2 separate filings here. I mean, if we could just, approve the fence part of it, get that going while they put the plan together for the NOI, that seems to make sense.
Bill, what's your timeline for the fence and the plan and all that?
Well, we've been, I think, as I explained to you, Mia, in the field, we've been through a pretty busy time that we experience every year, being the close of the fiscal year. And now we're in the beginning of the new fiscal year. So I'm still working on it. I should have it in place, approval of my spending plan for this year in the next week or two. I have looked into the contracting vehicles that I can use for procuring fence. Luckily, there's a statewide contract that's available to state agencies and cities and towns from which I can solicit several proposals. The turnaround time on that is not fast. It would probably be on the order of a month. And that's why I was thinking if I filed a RDA, if it didn't look like there were going to be impacts for putting the fence in, file an RDA, get the commission's okay on putting the fence in, get the fence in maybe by early August, but concurrently, I'd be engaging an engineer to help us put the plan together. And again, that takes time to procure the services of an engineering firm. So maybe by the time I was ready to get the fence installed in early August, I'd have an engineer coming on board just about then to do some survey out there and begin to put whatever our concept develops into down on the plan. And then sometime in August, file the notice of intent.
So Bill, you're looking for an engineer, not for the fence, but for the permanent solution. Is that right?
Correct, for the permanent solution at this location.
Okay. Well, I mean, if we went with the idea of an enforcement order, I know it sounds a little tough, but a friendly enforcement order, as Mia put it, that would basically let you get going when you leave the meeting here. And it would forget the whole
Now-
RDA piece.
No.
And
Now, there's another location I wanted to put a fence in because we have what's more of a safety issue at this other location over by the principal spillway, as we call it, where the water goes through the dam.
Yep.
I'm sure everyone's aware of the mishap that happened, the unfortunate mishap with a dog who went into the water in this location and was sucked into the structure and drowned. We think it's prudent for us to put a fence in the outline that you see on this graphic in yellow, which I'd like to kind of have it protrude into the woody growth on both ends. You can't really see it in this photo. The photo is grainy, but I thought that this would be pretty effective in dissuading people from coming to the water's edge. And we hear stories about people throwing sticks in the water for their dogs to go in on a hot summer day and retrieve the stick. But since that's come to our attention, we think we need to prevent that kind of access from happening. And I've even heard anecdotally that kids have gone into the water in this location, which is absolutely unacceptable.
well, that could be part of your NOI plan, couldn't it?
I guess it could, but I'd like to get both fences installed at the same time, just for economics sake. If a vendor's going to be out there, put them both in at the same time.
That makes sense. Question on the fences. They're temporary, but how are they going to be secure enough that, you know, a dog owner won't just push the fence down and let Poochie go for a drink?
Well, on the location where we're trying to protect the bank,
Yes. Yeah.
that I'm anticipating those holes being augured and then the fence post placed in, and then the parent material that's there that was pulled out of the hole will be packed back in to stabilize the fence post, and we'll bury them at least 36 inches. So they'll be in there pretty solid. I think it'd take quite an effort to pull those. At the other location, I'd like to auger and set either in a dense graded crushed stone that would pack hard, or concrete 3 feet deep. That would be permanent.
Mhm.
Another option, Greg, especially where we have the security issue on the second location, is issuing an emergency certification. Where we've had an incident, and the emergency certification would also allow them to install the fence right away.
On the second location.
We could lump them both together.
It sounds to me like by the time they have everything ready to go, they would be able to get their NOI in, is what I'm hearing. So it could be all done at the same time. If they were going to get out there to get that fence next week, then I would go that way. But I think that's up to Bill, how he wants to go forward.
Well, I think the NOI is, by the time we get an order of conditions, put it this way, by the time we get an order of conditions, I think it's going to be likely late into August. And I think we have a pretty good crack at getting these fences in sometime in early August.
Our next meeting is August 12th. With a determination, you can, as long as the determination is negative, which it sounds like the commission will be leaning that way, you can start work August 13th, the next day. So what I'm hearing is maybe a determination of applicability application for the August 12th meeting for just the fences, and then an NOI, and that could be at the August 12th meeting or the September meeting for an order of conditions for the armoring of the stream bank. The
Why would it
engineered
be,
armoring.
why would it be a potential negative determination?
Well, you want it to be negative. Negative means it will
What-
have no impact.
But is that a legitimate determination is my question.
Just the fencing, yeah, especially where it's to keep people away. It's part of a restoration project.
So we have options here. It sounds like we could do it. We could do an RDA approach, which would have to be for the August meeting though, right?
Yep, August 12th meeting. And then the fence could be installed as early as August 13th.
Or we could do some sort of violation notice, in which case the fence could be installed as soon as possible.
Yep, we could issue a friendly enforcement order tonight, but if the fence isn't going to be going in till, August 13th, then we don't need to do the enforcement. We could do the RDA. I think we're willing to work with Bill's timeline.
And
Bill,
the
what do you
NOI
prefer?
is really for the long-term solution, which is shrubbery and something else possibly, but
Restoration of the bank and stabilization and preventing access.
So Bill,
All
which
right.
option do you think works best for your timeline?
I don't think anything's gained as far as the timeline goes if we get an enforcement order. And
Okay.
I don't know. It's just me feeling more comfortable not dealing with an enforcement order.
Sure.
I support Bill's view of that as well too, Robert Lowell here, and agree that it's going to take us at least a couple of weeks to get the procurement of the fence squared away, and then we would be prepared to talk details at the August meeting if so granted.
Okay. And there is an application deadline. We do have to place the legal ad that's 10 days prior. So it would be July 29th would be the deadline for the determination to get it on the August 12th agenda. Same thing for the NOI. If you do an NOI for August 12th, I know you said you had to hire an engineer, so it might not come till September.
Yeah, that's likely to be September.
Okay.
Greg,
yeah, Diane.
the interim between fencing and people having their dogs, are there some way to keep these people, reminding them that they can't, let their dogs run? Letters.
Could you repeat that question?
Is there a way to remind these people to keep their dogs under control until such time as the fencing goes in? Or are we forget
Well, I
that?
mean, that's the current state of affairs, right? I mean, that's what's going on there now. I don't know. I think we've got some sort of a DCR ranger going there once a week or something, Mia?
Chief Liver might be able to comment on the current situation
Chief.
there. Got to unmute you.
Am I there?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. The graphic is up in the middle of the screen and I can't see my butt. The rangers try to go there once a week. I spoke with the chief ranger. They don't issue citations if they have one ranger in the truck, just because of they get some pushback on occasion. They just kind of take a friendly approach, but they don't. We've been asked to assist our animal control officer in starting to enforce the leash law down there. We cannot use our municipal bylaws on DCR property, but we do have concurrent jurisdiction, which means that we would have to use DCR citation books. So we just had a bunch of them delivered to us very recently. And they also, we'd be writing under the CMRs, under DCR regulations, which require animals to be on leash down at that particular piece of property. So we've been down there. I've went down there myself just to kind of assess the situation a couple of weeks ago. And it is basically what some people projected as an unofficial dog park, which it is not. Dogs have to be on leash on DCR property unless it's otherwise specified. It's well posted that they have to be on a leash. So it's going to be a process of breaking up years worth of assumptions that it's a dog park. And there's we've encountered some resistance on that. There's been a lot of misinformation over the years as to whether it's permissible in certain parts or not. So we're going down there now with the animal control officer to assist her because she's been the recipient of some rude treatment and some threats from folks down there when she's been trying to enforce it. So not the type of police work I would like my officers to be engaged in right at the moment, but it has been a problem that has surfaced quite a bit lately, and we're getting a lot of complaints. So that's the best we can do. As far as the DCR rangers go, there are very few of them, and they have a lot of acreage throughout the state that they've got to cover. So
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the fine, chief, for the DCR ticket? I guess I'll call it.
The fines start off with basically a warning with a maximum fine of up to $200, which is $150 more than what our municipal bylaw called for. So, but we have been down there. We started off with the soft approach, just talking to people and asking them to please put their animal on the leash. Most people comply. Other people just leave. Like the day I was down there, it was 2 people from Worcester, 2 people from Grafton, someone from Shrewsbury, 2 people from Marlboro, and I think I encountered like 3 Northborough residents. But it's not Northborough property, so it's not for residents only. It's state property, so it's open to anybody.
Well, I think the word's got out too that it's a dog park.
Well, there are a couple of sites, and there's a Facebook page dedicated towards it. I have met with the 2 folks that are very active down there. They are town residents, real responsible dog owners. They want to try to get proactive as well to try to get things back under control. I had a very, very good meeting with them last week. As a matter of fact, I owe them a little statement that I'm going to prepare so they can put it on their on the Facebook page. It's been trying to get prepared for town meeting. It's been a busy week for all town staff. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, Diane, there's your answer. So I mean, it's there are efforts underway, and it is what it is. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so Mia, what's the approach? You want to go ahead with it sounds like the RDA is the preferred approach by David and Bill.
Is that right, Bill? We'll do an RDA for August for the fence, and then an NOI possibly in September for the engineering
yeah.
of the bank.
I think so, yes.
Sounds good. Is that the consensus of the commission?
Yeah.
That's fine by me if that's what they're happy with.
You want to vote this to make sure?
One thing, I guess, just one question, guys. Can we, I don't know if we have the ability to, Mia, can we waive the requirement for butter notifications for the RDA? I mean, it's such a huge property. I imagine it's going to be a ton of butter notifications just for an RDA if we're going to follow up with an NOI the very next month.
It is, so a butter notification for an RDA is just required under your local bylaw.
Right.
But the current culture in town is the opposite of that, where, we're getting a lot of pushback. There was a petition just before COVID with 300 signers to the Board of Selectmen demanding transparency at town hall.
Okay.
I get regularly accused of not, like the disc golf. I was just recently accused of not notifying abutters for the disc golf project. I notified them myself.
Yeah, I figured just instead of doing it twice, it's just there's so many mailings that have to happen, but that's okay. And then I guess my other question was just on the inlet side of that that second area that you mentioned that the dog drowned. Is there the ability when you do the NOI or kind of do the work down there, can we get a trash rack in that side to prevent, even with the fence there, to prevent something like that from a kid from getting around the fence or anything like that to avoid, somebody getting trapped in there?
There is a trash rack on the intake, and I can't put a smaller one in because we need to maintain a flow rate, an unimpeded flow rate. Otherwise, it'll impact the performance of the facility when we're in a flood state.
Okay, so there's
Um,
one on there. It's just, the dog happened to be able to get through that.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay.
And I mean, I think we need to incorporate some new signage out there too, to educate
Okay.
people.
Certainly permanent signage, well, not on the temporary fence, certainly, right? We should put something out there too.
Yeah, we can put permanent posts in the ground.
With signage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dog was 120 pounds.
It was a big dog.
So Mia, just one more time before we go ahead, we should vote this, I think, right? The commission should vote it, what we're gonna do. Not that I'm a big favor of enforcement orders, but if we went that route, it would eliminate your concern for a butter notification.
Oh, well, Bill, do you have concern about a butter notification?
I sure do, because right now for critical, I'm the director of the state's Office of Dam Safety, and for critical mailings, there's just no process because we can't get into our building. I have to front the cost of mailings and then seek reimbursement through the department, which they do. They approve that. They have no problem with that. But if I have to tie up staff hours by trying to coordinate something over the phone from my makeshift home office
Oh, yeah.
that involves, I mean, I can't imagine how many people there are. Are there 100 households or more? It's
I'll
a
pull it up.
huge area, a lot of streets.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking Crawford Street and.
I've never had to do that for an RDA before.
Yeah, it's in our local
It's a local
bylaw,
requirement. Let me just pull up a quick abutters list. We can do it informal on the town GIS. Okay. We can also check with town council, and see if you could always vote to waive that requirement and then check with town council. And if town council's like, no, that vote didn't count, you can't vote that away, then I could just let Bill know. But let me just pull up. Let's see. This is.
Before I go ahead and keep on beating a dead horse, does the commission or Bill or Robert have any thoughts or comments about going the enforcement order route for the reason we just discussed?
No significant concerns. We would just like to keep it as clean as possible, I guess. And we are very compliance minded at DCR these days. So I think that's kind of where Bill and I are coming from.
It is a long list.
But I think for sake of expediency, I kind of defer, Bill. You're going to be the one who's going to activate the process here.
Yeah, I'm not too excited about. See, when I do the NOI for the greater project, I can assign that to the consultant that's going to be helping us prepare the plan for the permanent solution. But I'm
I think we have about 100.
kind of on my own with this one.
Yeah, 80 to 100 abutters. But you can vote to release them from that, and then I can check with town council to see if that's appropriate. That you have the legal right to do that. Would that work?
Well, if it's not appropriate,
Well, we could vote to, send a ship to Mars and then check with town council, and they could be like, no.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just feel like it's, there's emergency repairs here one's for safety reason and one's for, really kind of an erosion need. I mean, I feel like it's, if they're going to be coming in with a permanent solution right after and notifying 100 abutters, right after that, then this is just a, kind of gotta get it done to get things fixed out there. before an
Our office
accident
could do
happens.
it. How about we do it? We could
What?
send out we could send out the abutter notification from this office. Does that work?
That sounds good to me, Bill.
Well, I'm not looking for each of us to do
I'd
30
appreciate
people.
that.
I mean, sure. It's fine.
Yeah. That might be better, Mia.
The assessors will print me up some labels, and Deb will help me stuff them. So
Much obliged, Mia.
sure.
That's much appreciated.
You're not going to do it like you said, Bill. But when you have the consultant on board for the NOI, that's takes that off your plate, doesn't it? So, okay, so the
Yeah.
plan then is the plan then is an RDA on the agenda for next month, and we'll call it the temporary solution, I guess, or the short-term solution, one of those two, and then the longer-term solution or the permanent solution will be an NOI, which will be either August or also maybe more likely September.
That sounds great.
Yes, yeah, that's the concept.
Okay, so let's vote. Is that your understanding, Mia, too?
What was that?
That you're understanding what I just outlined the plan is?
Yep. That's right.
All right, so let's, I think we need a motion, don't we?
Greg, did you want to take any public input? We
I
don't
certainly-
have to. It's not a
certainly can.
hearing, but
I certainly can. Let me see what we have for attendees here. I don't see any hands up. Give it a second. I don't see any hands up or phone call-ins. Going once, going twice,
that's good news.
none. Okay, so let's, I guess we'll have a motion, then a vote, yeah? Need a motion.
I move that we do the RDA in that next month, August 12th. And then do the notice of intent in September.
I second that.
Okay, we will take a roll call vote. Diane Gouldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I also will say yes. So we have a plan, gentlemen.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. This is Bill. Thank you very much.
This is Rob. Thank you for your time this evening. We look
Super,
forward to
thank
talking to
you.
you next month.
Super, super. Any questions? You know where Mia is, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
We do.
super. Thank you.
Good folks.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
CSX. Okay.
SX is our next item. Mia, they owed you some, well, first, let me see. Wait, let me see if we have a presenter here. We have a presenter, Stephen Herzog. I've seen that name here. Hold on a second, Stephen. Okay. I'm going to promote you to panelist, Stephen.
I think that's the wrong Stephen.
Stephen Riley.
We have a
Hmm.
Stephen Herzog.
Yeah, I think they're close together. Stephen Riley's now an attendee. Stephen Herzog is not here. He was here earlier. Let me double check again. There he is. All right. Let's try it this time. Okay, Stephen, you're muted.
Hello, this is Stephen Herzog calling.
Stephen, you're on the phone. You're not on video. Is that the way it's supposed to be?
That's the way I see it too. I don't see that I have control. Let me see. Oh, okay. There it is.
There you go. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us your role?
Yes, my name is Steve Herzog. I'm with Wood Environment and Infrastructure, formerly AMEC. Environment and Infrastructure, and we represent CSX Transportation. We submitted this RDA on their behalf as part of their 5-year vegetation management plan.
Now, Mia, my understanding here is that the RDA was submitted back several years ago.
We need to submit an RDA every 5 years as part of the 5-year vegetation management plan, which is a renewal of the plan that indicates where and why CSX is going to apply herbicides on the railroad. So as part of that, the right-of-way management regulations require us to do an RDA and seek confirmation from every town through which the railroad passes of the locations of wetlands where they cross the railroad or approach within 10 feet of the railroad, because we're not allowed to spray herbicide within 10 feet. So the work is limited to the buffer zone, but we need to seek this RDA to get your approval of our identification of the wetlands and buffer zones.
This is an RDA for the next 5 years going forward, starting now going forward.
Correct.
So 2020 to 2025 or something like that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mia, do you have documentation? Do you have a status update? Do you have any concerns?
So I got the plans with the figures, with the aerials showing. I was hoping we could take a look at those. So I looked into the previous RDA, and it looks like one was submitted in July of 2015. It was on the agenda. The minutes for that meeting show that no one was present for the RDA. And then that was Cale's last meeting. So it fell off the agenda and never reappeared. And I checked the minutes for the next 6 months, and it was not at any of the following meetings either. So I don't think it was issued in 2015. But it might be, you never know. It might have been issued and just maybe not recorded properly in the minutes or in our files. But, now we're here. And so I was hoping for some additional information, but Stephen and I looked in our files again. Stephen checked with his and with the railroad. We haven't been able to find anything. So we're kind of starting from scratch. Looking at the figures, there's maybe 303 to 316. There's like 14 figures. I haven't been able to go out in the field because I just found out, I think it was yesterday or today, that we don't have any additional information. So there are some locations where I'm concerned. So Stephen, if you wanted to, do you want to share your screen or do you want me to share mine showing the figures?
I would prefer you show yours because I don't know how to do that from mine.
Sure.
I'm not sure how good my connection is either.
Let's see.
I remember this coming in. I thought that was extended.
15?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you see the figures?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the first one, figure 303. And Stephen, I was wondering if you could discuss the different determinations. So the yellow is no spray, wetlands within 10 feet. The blue is limited 1-year buffer zone. And then there's another one later on where I think it's a 2-year limitation.
Yes.
Could you explain those?
Yes. Sure. First, this first sheet is mostly the town of Berlin. The way these maps were assembled were along the right-of-way, and split up by town, so they don't start and end at the town lines. So yes, we identified wetlands in the railroad corridor where they are within 10 feet of the ballasted roadbed, which is the crushed stone on which the railroad sits. We mark on the railroad cross ties in the same colors you see here, yellow or blue. Yellow if there is a wetland within 10 feet. So in this one case, you see a wetland in Berlin there would be the northwest side of the railroad, because the north arrow is going to the left here. That means there's a wetland within 10 feet of the railroad, and we're not allowed to spray herbicides within 10 feet of that wetland.
Steve, excuse me, whose regulation is the 10-foot no spray zone?
That's the state rights of way management regulations, which are managed by the Department of Agricultural Resources Pesticide Bureau. It's 333 CMR 11, I believe is the citation. And that contains reference to the Wetlands Protection Act and requires this RDA process. So rather than hang flags on the railroad, which the railroad doesn't extend very far in either direction away from the tracks, we mark actually on the railroad ties, the wooden ties, where the weed sprayer is not allowed to spray herbicides. That does two things. It identifies the location of the wetland for the purposes of these RDAs, and also for the use by the weed spray operation, which takes place along the track. So back to your question, Mia. The yellow means there's a wetland within 10 feet of the ballasted railroad bed, and the blue means there's wetland within 100 feet. So it would be the 100-foot buffer zone or the 200-foot riverfront area to a perennial stream. And you'd also mention on some of the other pages, there's purple, which represents not a wetland, but a drinking water supply area, the zone 2 or interim wellhead protection area, in which herbicide spray is allowed no more than once every 2 years.
Thank you.
Very good.
So there were just a couple locations. I was pleased with figures 303 to 308. So I'm going to skip to 309. And I was wondering why here, I mean, I haven't been able to go out and field confirm this, but I was just looking at these layers here, and it looks like, you've got the wetlands coming up very close, and my familiarity with the wetlands and from our mapping. And so there was a few locations like here, and then on the following page, we have it happening again in a couple locations. So I'm not sure, Stephen, if you could comment on that, or if I should go out and walk these areas to see if they're really within 10 feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what you're seeing polygons that represent the Mass DEP wetlands data layer that was downloaded from Mass GIS.
Mm-hmm.
So you may be familiar with those. Those are based on air photo interpretations, and they're not especially accurate on the ground. So in both of those cases, I am confident that the wetland is not within 10 feet of the railroad bed, but the Mass DEP wetlands data layer shows it encroaching in, at least in the colored strip there. That colored strip also is exaggerated for visibility. So I'm not sure it's exactly to scale. You see there's a scale in the bottom right. But essentially there is no wetland within 10 feet of the railroad right there. That's an artifact of the inaccuracy of the Mass DEP wetlands data layer.
Okay. There was another, so when you say that you're fairly confident, do you know, so you visited this site, or,
Yes.
what makes you confident? You visited, okay.
Yes, I did the delineation myself in Northborough.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Stephen, are all the tracks in Northborough in scope, or are other railroad owners of the other tracks?
I don't know if any other railroads go through Northborough, but
Okay.
this one line which extends roughly from southeast to northwest is owned entirely by CSX. I'm not sure if that's answered your question.
I think it does, because I'm the ones those are pretty much the ones that I'm familiar with, going through downtown and by Juniper and so forth. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any questions from the commission?
None from me.
No,
Do you have anybody who is an attendee who's got questions in the audience? I don't see anybody. So Mia, this is going to be an extenuation of an RDA that we're not sure was issued.
No, it could just be a new one. It's just a
Be a
negative
brand new one?
determination that,
Yep.
well, actually it's a confirmation, right? That's the request. Let me just
Yes.
double check.
Confirmation of wetland boundaries.
Mm-hmm. That the boundaries of resource areas depicted on the plans referenced are accurately delineated.
That's the way we worded the request. Some municipalities have seen fit to make other determinations, such as the work is within your jurisdiction, but a notice of intent is not required. We cite in the RDA form provisions of the Wetlands Protection Act, which exempt the applicant from having to file an NOI. There's some regarding presumption of application of herbicides and grandfathered exemption from the Riverfront Act. But in essence, there's no work being done in wetlands. It's in buffer zone. And those provisions of the Wetlands Protection Act state that we are not required to submit an NOI. An RDA is sufficient.
It'll be good for 5 years, Mia.
Yes.
I just lost all visibility on my screen.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if somebody took a document down. I mean, can everybody else see what's going on?
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to stop sharing and see if that helps.
That helps.
All right.
See, pushing buttons, Mia. Things happen in technology when you push them. You know? Okay. No more questions from the commission. No audience questions. We need a motion and a vote.
I make a motion that we extend or continue the RDA for CSX.
Second,
Well, it's going to be a negative determination, Mia, correct?
Yep. Negative determination. And that
Negative
the
determination.
boundaries are that are delineated are accurate.
Tom makes the motion. Diane seconds. We will go through a roll call vote. Diane Goldner,
yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston. You're muted, Kelly.
Yes.
Very good. And I also will vote yes.
All right.
Super. We're all set. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We are going to we have two informal discussions on the agenda, Maple Lane and Mount Pisgah. Maple Lane is Ted Gowdy.
Ted Gowdy. Let me find Ted Gowdy. Here he is. He has been promoted. There he is. Okay, Ted, you're muted. Here you are. Still muted.
Come on. Can you hear me now?
Good. You're good. You're
Wonderful.
good. Okay, so informal discussion. 30 Maple Lane, proposed construction of a garage. What is going on?
The clients at 30 Maple
I'm
Lane.
sorry, Ted. I'm sorry. My fault. Could you identify yourself and your firm
Sorry.
first?
Ted
Thanks.
Gowdy from the Gowdy Group from 14 Fiddle Lane in Southborough.
Mhm.
The clients are Stephen Riley and his wife Kimberly of 30 Maple Lane. They contacted me because they'd like to do a garage addition. It's an existing ranch house, raised ranch with a 1-car basement level garage, and then like to put in a 2-car garage addition. Mia, do you have the plans that you can share?
Yes, I'll get those now.
Okay. So 30 Maple Lane abuts Bartlett Pond, and the garage, there's a couple options on the garage. So so just real quick, so 30 Maple Lane abuts Bartlett Pond.
Yeah.
Maybe you can scroll to the next page. So I drew the red line here. What's on the right is the existing structure. Again, I guess it's more probably a Cape style house with the 1-car below gate garage. And then the idea is to do a 2-car garage adjacent to it with a large family room on the first floor. So there's 2 options for the garage. One option would be, this is
Where do you want it?
Either one is fine.
Okay.
So this is a plan view showing the partial of the 1-car garage at the basement level, the 1-car garage facing the front, and then a 2-car garage adjacent to it. So there's 2 options that we want to discuss. One would be putting the setting the garage back on the house, which would enable the garage to be outside of the 35-foot buffer zone, but would also have That's the benefit. The downside is greater impervious area because we have a longer driveway leading up to the garage.
Stephen,
So-
where is the pond in right now? Okay.
Yeah. So I was getting to that. So basically there's two options here. So you see Maple Lane. This property is where Maple Lane crosses the pond, leading further into it. There's a little like peninsula that Bartlett Pond kind of encircles. And I believe recently you did an addition or something like that on his neighbor, which is the next property down in Maple Lane. Just for helping you cite it. So as you see in this, the pond, there's not a lot of, I guess, buffer zone or anything like that. You know, the edge of the pond, and then you have maybe a 5 to 10 foot of native native species, and then you have a little rock wall, and then their grass. So most of the area here is all their front yard grass. So what we want to get some feedback from you is, do we go with the forward alternative, which is the 2-car garage somewhat aligned with the front of their house, which puts the garage structure in the buffer zone, or do we push the garage structure back on the property? We're calling that the rear alternative, and we can get it outside of the no build, but then we have to connect the driveway, which would be impervious. I don't know, Mia, if you have any other context for the commission?
So as you're pulling into Maple Lane, this is the bridge that leads to the rest of Maple Lane. And so there's
Okay.
a lot of water flowing into here. Up to the northeast of the plan is Bartlett Pond. To the southwest is kind of a marshy swamp. I mean, it's standing water all the time, but it's not the actual like Bartlett Pond proper. And then on the other side of this marsh, you recently permitted the sunroom on the opposite side for, I think it was 40 Maple Lane. So the two options are to put the garage back here out of the 35 no build, but then you'll have to pave up to the garage. So you'll have an increase in impervious, or move it forward within the 35-foot no build with less pavement. So they're trying to figure out, by right, most likely they can definitely come in with this 35-foot offset garage and get a permit for that. It follows all the local regulations and setbacks. But they're wondering if you would prefer for them to move it forward and not have the driveway within the setbacks. And it's existing driveway, it's already there.
From the client's perspective, they would prefer the forward alternative,
Okay.
but either alternative works for the client. And again, we're looking for some input for you so we can do one application that hopefully meets your needs.
So can I give a feedback? Is it time for that?
Sure. Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay. Is this oriented north? Is that arrow? That's accurate, right? North is up. Okay. So my one feedback on this, typically I'd be for the rear garage, but I think I'm actually for the forward garage on this one, because I think overall environmental impact is going to be less. If you do the rear garage, the majority of that building is going to be exposed on the north side, and that's going to gather a lot of cold air, and that I feel like that room is over the garage with a lot of north exposure is going to be really cold, and they're going to have to do a lot more heating. But that's my 2 cents.
So, Mia, the proposed driveway is just barely inside the no disturb, right?
Yes.
Well, the proposed driveway, in essence, would be underneath where the red box is, which is the forward alternative. We connect the end of the existing driveway and run it right into the corner of the new garage.
And that's existing lawn right now. So if you were, if they connected it to the back set garage, they would offset that with, some type of planting or something. It's a give and take, but it's all within existing lawned area.
What's the actual distance from the corner of the proposed to the edge of the wetlands?
It's not measured on the plan, but it looks to be about 20 feet.
Okay. Well, I'm, there was a reason why we have the setback, and the proposed addition setback will actually meet the bylaw. So my personal opinion is that regardless of which way it faces, if we can not have to make an exception, I would prefer to just go with the rear offset garage, and then it stays within compliance.
The existing driveway is currently within the 35. The new one will be mostly outside the 35. Am I reading that correctly?
I think so.
Huh.
About half and half.
I would say more the half and half.
Yeah, I mean, my position is pretty simple. It's that the least amount of activity inside the 35 would be my preference.
Okay.
Ideally none, but like Tom said, we have that there for a reason.
Okay. Justin and Diane, would either of you?
Yeah, I
wanna
mean,
share
I
your
guess
opinion?
I kind of see both sides of it. I mean, you push the garage up closer, you have less impervious area, less driveway area, which actually, roof runoff is cleaner than pavement, and then runoff from pavement with oils and drippings from cars. So, you've got less impervious within the 100-foot buffer, if we're thinking about that too. But certainly understand that, we just increased these buffers, and, don't really want to, set precedent and start, having waivers and things like that, right off the bat too. So I mean, I guess I'm kind of on the fence. I'm a little bit indifferent on either option. I guess I'd probably lean towards just keeping it compliant with our regulations to just avoid that as much as we can, but understand the overall environmental impacts of pushing it forward may be a little bit better in this instance. But I guess I'm indifferent.
You're no help.
I know, sorry.
I much prefer the back end, the back side. I think that putting in a little extra driveway is a lot less invasive than having a whole garage right there.
Right. So Ted, there's some input for you.
Yeah, I appreciate all your comments. I'm not sure how the clients, what I plan on doing is kind of presenting this information, and me, if I can get access to the YouTube video so she can just hear everybody's comments direct, and then we'll come back forward. I don't know. I know they preferred the forward alternative. I don't know how strong that preference was. So I think we'll have a conversation and come back to you as to either, my sense is there's a slight leaning of the commission towards the rear, but not necessarily overarching a strong preference. So, I'll talk with them, and then we'll come back to you with our arguments as to why we think one is better than the other, comprehensively.
Good. That's why we have informal discussions, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah,
Super.
I'd say, Ted, if they are, really pushing towards the front, maybe a good plan of some type of, wetland improvement, or, certainly some infiltration from that roof area. It's going to have to be a little bit of a give then on the commission side, I think, to approve something like that.
Okay.
I think.
That makes sense. We'll take that into consideration. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ted.
Great. Thank
When do you think you'll be back? You looking at next month or September?
I'd like to be in front of you in August. I forget when was that meeting again?
It's August 12th.
12th. I think the cutoff is the end of this month, though, for submission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're 90% ready to go to submit. So we kind of, we've got some architecturals, at least enough for our conversation purposes. So we just need to, sit down, make a decision, and then we can get our full application in.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sure. Excellent.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Another informal discussion, via Mount Pisgah. Let me see who we have here for that.
We have Liz Newlands is from the Mass Division of Fish and Wildlife, and John Aney is the chairman of the Berlin Conservation Commission.
They've both been promoted.
And Brian Belfer, he's on the Open Space Committee. I don't know if you want to bring him in on this too.
Sure. Brian's also been promoted.
Let me ask Kathy if she wants to be promoted.
I'm still seeing John. Okay, John and Kathy Joubert. Okay. All right, we've got, I see Liz and Brian. Brian, you're muted. John Aney is with us. Thank you, John.
Hi.
Oh.
Chief Sliver is back. And Henry Squilante.
Kathy's just going to listen.
Henry Squilante.
Also, Melanie is Melanie Rich. She's your board secretary. She's just going to listen in. I don't know who Louise Jonda is. I don't know if she'd be interested.
Louise Jonda is on the Berlin Conservation Commission.
You want to invite her in too, Greg?
Sure.
You want her in? Who's Henry Squilante? Is he also Berlin?
He's
No.
Go ahead.
Henry's a Northborough resident.
He lives here in town.
Okay. Louise Jonda is coming in. Promote to panelist, and the gang is all here.
Is Walter signed in?
I did not see him listed. The only person, the only attendee now is Melanie.
Yeah, he may not have made it through the other stuff.
Okay. So we've got me and myself, the commission, Liz, Brian, John, Chief Leibner, Kathy listening in, and Louise Jonda. Mount Pisgah. I think we all know what's been going on up there for a while. There's been several attempts from our side from the Northborough side to control it. I think, John, you've had similar issues in Berlin, and you've taken some steps also, right?
Yes.
We have not had a lot of success on our side. I'm not sure what your situation is in Berlin, but
it's slightly different. We actually, one of Mia's friends found a rogue trail. So Walter and the chief of police and I went up there, and we shut it down. And then I borrowed, sort of adapted some signs that Mia had put up there too, just to point out to people that they shouldn't be making trails. And that seemed to work. I checked it out a couple weeks after we shut it down, and it was still shut down. So
how'd you shut it down?
What
was your technique for shutting it down?
We dragged some obstacle across the path and tore apart their jump. So it was manual labor. And then I posted a sign or two. I mean, these are, I think, just kids goofing off and they probably don't want to get into trouble. So
Well, we've had
once
some
they were
encounters
discovered.
there. Anyway, I think, again, we're in a full discussion here tonight around the management plan for it. We've had discussions at Northborough that ranged from let's get the local biking community involved as a police action, a police group. Sometimes having your own people police the activities are good, ranging up to let's shut it down from our side. So that's where we are on this one. And the floor is open for discussion.
So I'm still in favor of shutting it down for all bikes.
All right.
Can I
Noted.
clarify that there are two separate issues here?
Okay.
The one is the formation of rogue trails, and the other was just the widespread cutting of white pines. And I don't really think they're related.
Yes, I believe they are. Same group doing the same thing. We have more rogue trails in Northborough than was ever mapped out. And the white pine tree cutting. And I believe it came up that somebody witnessed it going on, and it was mountain bikers that were there doing it. And I believe that the police department couldn't find those people and weren't able to get a hold of anybody to stop the activity, but it was witnessed.
And I have a couple of thoughts about that, because I went out after Mia contacted me. I went up there to look at it on the Northborough side, all those like hundreds of white pines that were cut down, and it was hard for me to imagine why a mountain biker would do that. Just because there was it's a lot of work for no gain.
Well, the way it was explained to us was that way they can see ahead of time where their jumps are, and they're not coming into them blind.
I mountain bike in various areas in the state, and that's just not something mountain bikers tend to do. There is an alternative explanation, and a friend of mine actually spoke with somebody who had a saw in hand and was cutting within the past year, and there was a hunter, and they were cutting small trees so they had a clear field of fire. They were actually a bow hunter, so they would post up on a tree and make sure they had a clear field of fire for their bow. And that certainly, I don't hunt, but I've talked to a lot of hunters, and that is something that they do, because it can be quite aggravating if you're a bow hunter and your arrow gets deflected by a branch that you hadn't noticed as you were tracking the deer. So to me, that's a more reasonable explanation for cutting sort of random trees off trail.
But these are all along the trail, and it's like 500 or 600 trees now.
Yeah, my first impression when I saw it, I rode up there and saw it. It was almost bizarre. It was as if somebody was treating the white pines like an invasive species. It didn't seem like a logical behavior to me. It just was weird. Almost like an obsession to desire to destroy all white pines. It just didn't make any sense. And so that was my first impression. Again, as someone who does mountain bike, that's not something you necessarily do. I mean, once you get to know a trail, you know where the obstacles are anyway, and you don't really need a long line of sight. Part of the fun is coming up across stuff.
Brian, you're on the Trails Committee, right?
I am. So I'm on the Trails Committee. I'm on the Open Space Committee. I'm also an active member of the New England Mountain Bike Association, and I have hiked and biked up at Pisgah. And there is no doubt that some of the bikers are cutting fresh trail, But as John mentioned, the widespread cutting of the small pines defies any explanation from a rogue cycling point of view. It makes no sense at all. There's no rhyme or reason. Some of it was adjacent to some of the trails. Other areas were of no consequence to the trails whatsoever. So I think that there's clearly an issue going on, but I would find it hard to believe that it is 100% due to any one user group up there.
I agree with Brian. You know, when you open to the public, you're open to all the public. And I think Chief Liver's familiar with over on the Stirrup Brook trails, you know, we had that phantom pooper who just defaced the entire trail with feces. And that person was mentally ill, you know, and he did it for like weeks and made a mess up there. And now, you know, Tom, you know, that someone spent a significant amount of their personal time removing all the white pines, and they did it in such a lazy way where they didn't even bend down. They just sort of walked through with a chainsaw and just zapped them off like they were bored. And boredom is a problem here in town during this pandemic. So I know it's happened. You know, we do have the rogue trails. We do have the rampant cutting. So I think we need to move forward to make a plan as to what we're going to do next. And also I did find evidence of people do bow hunt up there. And I found a cutting implement. It was so creepy. It was like a blade on a stick that, you know, I checked with some hunting friends. It's a bow hunter tool to cut branches they can't reach. So I know people are cutting it, but that would be more for branches. You know, we do have bow hunters up there. They're welcome. So it's just used by a variety of people. They're not using it correctly, and we need to do something to guide people. And I also want to say I joined the Blackstone Valley Mountain Bikers Facebook page, and I noticed a lot of confusion there. People saying someone needs to contact the land managers because Todd is regularly closing some of the jumps, especially where you have parallel areas and where the parallel jump is causing erosion. Todd Helwig, who's one of our commissioners not here, he's regularly dragging logs across it and closing it off, and it's regularly getting reopened. And we're finding out it's actually the mountain bikers who are reopening it, thinking that it's not us. They said someone needs to contact the land managers because someone is blocking these trails. And I just wanted to reach out and be like, no, it's the land managers blocking the trails. So we need to, you know, get a coordinated effort. We've got 3 owners. We've got the town of Berlin, we've got the state, and we've got us. Just a coordinated effort to disseminate information, what we're going to do up there. Last week, we talked a little bit about mapping different types of outreach. If it's okay with you, Greg, I'd love to hear from Liz as well.
Sure. So I want to speak to a point that John brought up in terms of cutting trees for shooting lanes. And that is an activity that hunters do. And what is interesting to me is I didn't see any of that type of cutting. What I saw were, like you had mentioned, hundreds of white pines. I think of them as saplings and not as trees, which maybe that's mincing words. But for me as an ecologist, a tree is very different than a sapling. And when I initially heard that there were 300 trees that were cut on the property, I was horrified. I was relieved to see that it was saplings and not trees. Not that it's not still a problem, but that's just, you know, one small piece that I want to try to keep in mind in thinking about the problem. But mountain biking is not an activity that Mass Wildlife promotes through the agency as a compatible form of recreation on wildlife management areas. The Department of Conservation and Recreation is the state agency that promotes that type of activity. So we would very much like to work in discouraging the types of activities that are happening on the wildlife management area in the Mount Pisgah landscape. We also have the dual interest in the wildlife conservation easement portion of the property where the town of Northborough owns the land, but Mass Wildlife holds the conservation restriction. And while we would continue to work with the town in implementing the types of activities that they feel are consistent with their goals and objectives, while also recognizing that part of the reason why that land was protected was to promote wildlife and wildlife habitat. And not all recreational uses are compatible with wildlife and wildlife habitat.
Liz, Chief, you're spending some cycles up there and some people and some time. What's your position?
Well, as far as I'm, the Conservation Commission, there's no hunting on your land up there unless you've issued a permit, and they have to appear before you for a permit. Bow or rifle, it does a shotgun, it doesn't matter. There's no hunting up there. So whether they're shooting bow and arrow hunting or whatever, they're in violation of your rules and regulations, and they don't belong there. I know hunting is allowable on the state-owned portion of the land.
Excuse me, Chief, it is also allowed on the town's portion that is held under conservation restriction. Excuse me, just 1 second.
Okay, sure.
I'm right in the middle of the meeting, but working from home. So the conservation restriction portion of the town's land is open to hunting.
But their requirements are that you have to have a permit from the Conservation Commission.
I'll have to double check the conservation restriction on that.
I believe that is the case.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
We've taken some steps up there to try and identify who's cutting the trees. It's not easily accessible for us. And we were unsuccessful. We have lots of information, but no real clear indication of who it might have been. I just can't put people up there all the time just walking around looking for someone that might be cutting down a tree. It's like, here today and gone tomorrow. I find it offensive that people are going up onto conservation land and doing the damage that they're doing. I did speak to someone that indicated that they thought it may have been a hiker or someone that was walking up there trying to clear the view from the saplings of trees to kind of expand the view while walking on a trail. But I don't know that. But all of my patrol officers here, they know it. They know about it. We used to go up there on mountain bikes, but we don't really have avid mountain bikers here, and that's really not the intent of having mountain bikes. Those are for bike patrols. We stopped that when the first few people went over the handlebars and ended up going out of work for a while. So it's just a matter of guys going up and parking. One of the thoughts I did have was if the Conservation Commission has any availability of funds, and if there's something that can be approved, is maybe a poster at the trailhead on Smith Road announcing a reward for information that that leads to the identification of anybody cutting trees. And give them either the police department number or Mia's number. But if you made it a substantial reward, 500 plus, you would probably get somebody who sees somebody up there with a saw come down and say, I just saw a guy, he's up here now. The other thing would be we could perhaps do some surveillance up there remotely.
Cameras.
Where the parking area is. But I don't want to get too much detail about what we're doing or what we can do, but we can continue to try doing something along those lines.
We can, I can look in with the local district office about allocating some camera traps to deploy on the property in strategic locations as well. We might have a few kicking around that we could post up there.
Yep.
That would be good.
Yeah, the majority of the activity is up there on the Howard Ridge and the Vernal Pool Trail. That's where the most cutting is happening. We might, if we could get another camera, and maybe Conservation Commission, we could have used the cameras on the disc golf issues, and I'm sure we can use them again. If you want to think about purchasing cameras, we could put them down in the loop. There's a lot of illicit activity ongoing on the loop. I'm not sure if it's our cutters, but there are a couple. Brian, you and I saw there's some mountain bike trails being cut in that I really closed up hard with a lot of wood trying to block it up, and they've been in place for about a month now and haven't been moved. They were regularly getting moved, and then I lost my temper and I just pulled so much stuff in front of it, and that stayed put.
Have the mass
Where
cuttings
was it?
stopped?
If there's
loop.
budget issues with something like acquiring trail cameras, NEMBA is willing, I can speak for them, they're willing to put some money into helping this problem.
So one of the other things I wonder if folks have thought about is understanding the larger landscape and what the trail network is like out there, and taking an inventory, if you will, and understanding, and it might just be as simple as GPSing the trails that are there, kind of assessing the condition that they're in, and accepting certain trails, designating the ones that you want, and then recognizing that there are some that are probably inconsistent because they were probably old deer runs that turned into trails over time, and they're just not where you would cite a trail. They might go up a fall, down a fall line, and just not be a sustainable trail in terms of erosion control. And it can be a way for land managers to convey to the public through a map at a kiosk of where the trails are that are going to be kind of certified, I guess you would say, and then others that you're just going to work to erase from the landscape. And you can mark and maintain certain trails. I'll have to stop and say, not on the wildlife management area. We have a trail policy about marking and maintaining trails on wildlife management areas. Mass Wildlife is committed to kind of trying to create more of a backwoods experience for recreational users, and marking and maintaining trails isn't something that our agency spends time and resources on doing. But the town properties, that might be a way to help address some of these issues. And I've seen, I don't think it's on the NEMBA website, but there are other websites that show kind of the rogue trails that have been built, and people post and comment on them. And a lot of them have that kind of loopy flow back and forth and around that take up a lot of footprint on the landscape, instead of some older trails that seem to be more point-to-point destination and loops that bring you out and around, but not so much of a, I don't know, there seems to be a newer type of riding that enthusiasts enjoy. I think some of the mountain bikers that are here tonight might understand what I'm trying to convey in terms of the gaining height and coming down and looping around and having lots of banking curves and things like that. I've seen that built up on the property in recent years. So you can look at that and try to address it by understanding what's out there.
But that really boils down to redesigning the trails.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Or we could close it to mountain bikes, and then we wouldn't need to have the loops and circles and jumps, and we wouldn't have to spend the time going up there to block off road trails and tear down jumps, and then some of it may be able to go back to a little more of natural.
I agree
That is
with
another
Liz
option.
that we need an inventory. And I know that there's data out there, especially like heat mapping from some of the apps. So I think I can connect with Brian. We met a mountain biker out there who was like a contributor. Did you ever get his contact information, Brian? Dan, do you remember him?
I have it. I have his info somewhere. Yeah.
He's like a contributor to a Trails app, might be Trails or something. And so he has a lot of heat map data that he's offered to give us. He's also a trail steward for DCR in West Boylston. He seems like a pretty good guy. I'm not sure if he was cutting, he was acting suspicious, but he's willing to work with us, and he's willing to partner with us. And so I think, the inventory is a good idea. Liz, over on the Fish and Wildlife property, you were talking about the loop-de-loop trails down in the gorge. It does look like a dirt bike course right now. Do you have any suggestions about how to deal with that? We've got the inventory, and we could take a look at the inventory, long-term management, what areas we want to close. We also have the safety issue, people regularly getting lost and turned around on our trails. But then there's that second issue of there actually are like that gorge looks like a dirt bike course.
When you say dirt bike, do you mean a motorized dirt bike?
No, it's mountain bikes are being
Okay.
used in
Right.
it, but I mean, it's just loop-de-loops.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't even look like a forest, you know, it looks like somebody's
Yeah.
backyard that they're trying to play on their mountain bike.
So we'll have to take a closer look at that as an agency, because I believe a lot of that portion of the property is in the WMA. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
there's no trail.
And yeah. So in situations like that, we would post a sign that closes an area for ecological restoration. And it's hard to enforce unless there's somebody out there on a regular basis. And most use is happening on the weekend, right? When a lot of people don't want to necessarily have to go to work, but that's the best way to do it. There are, if you have the resources, you can take an iron rake and a work crew and scar the trail surface and take duff and debris and branches and things from the local woods and put it in the middle of the trail. And instead of just posting a sign and kind of asking people to not be there, kind of erase it from people's vision, at least for the first, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 feet, however long it is that you can kind of see at a trail intersection down along the area that you want to close for restoration. That can really help to discourage people, more so than just dropping something or piling up branches and limbs perpendicular across a trailhead. People tend to just walk over those or push stuff aside or ride over them. So, but those, it's labor intensive. There's no question about that. Yeah.
Do we have, it seems like there are some, I think as John brought up earlier, is there agreement that there are two issues here? One is the rogue trail issue. The second one is the pervasive cutting issue. And I know that in the past, we've been kind of broad brushing both together, but maybe that's not the case. Do we approach them differently? It sounds like you've already taken care of the rogue trail issue in Berlin, John, with dragging boulders or whatever you're bringing over there.
Yeah, well, I mean, logs, boulders, and tearing the jumps apart, I think made a difference too. Yeah, Walter took care of another one all by himself, like maybe 3 years ago, that went from the right near the town line, and then down into Berlin. So there's only really been 2 road trails that I know of in the Berlin side in a while. The Berlin side's much more steep. There's a lot. It's a lot more. The mountain biking trails that look like mountain biking trails are actually all in Northborough. That's the flowing ones that you were referring to. I haven't seen any. Mia, when you talk about the gorge, are you talking about because I don't really go down there.
The Howard Ridge Trail. You kind of look. If
Are
you're
you
coming
going-
from Berlin south into Northborough, it would be to the left as you're on the Howard Ridge Trail. You kind of look down into this open bowl.
Right. So if you take the vernal pool trail that you skirt
Brings you down into it. Yep.
Down into it. That's not really the gorge. That's above the gorge.
Okay.
Yeah,
I guess I'm referring to it wrong. Just like a bowl area.
Yeah, there is sort of between the vernal pool trail and the Howard Ridge itself. There's a valley there.
Yeah.
But I don't really go down in there. But anyway, so I have a question, Mia. When was the last time that any white pines were cut?
I'd say about a month ago on the
Really?
loop trail. Yeah.
Still?
Yeah. It looked like someone was trying to cut in another jump. The loop trail, it's a little circle. They were trying to cut in each side. There was 2, one going out towards the road and one going in the loop. And that loop is the perfect size so that when you're walking it, you can't see the other side of it. And so cutting into the middle is really going to degrade its quality. It's really going to end up not feeling like the forest anymore. So pines were cut there and moved aside. I use them to line the trail. I don't like the look. Like it looks like a, Yosemite, I guess. I don't know, like when you put the little trees along the trail, but I was really trying to say like, this is the trail. This is not the trail.
That's fine. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
My observations are, I have two observations. The first is some of this is very labor intensive, and that's where you're running into trouble. It's just getting the people to do stuff like this and to maintain it. It's a lot of work. Scouring trails is a lot of work. The second is like, the question is like, who is doing this? I mean, my guess is that these are mostly kids, or adolescent males or young males that are doing this, and probably many of them probably live close by. Particularly, I think during the school shutdown, there was a lot of kids with free time on their hands. And as opposed to everybody else who probably is disinterested in making trails or cutting anything. So the challenge is really finding out who is doing this and trying to like rein them in a little bit.
We go that route. One of the things the chief talked about was, maybe a two-prong approach of some sort of poster with a reward attached to it, and secondly, some sort of surveillance, whether it's parking lots or something else, to find out who the heck is doing the cutting.
Yeah. I mean, the parking lot thing might be tough because, if these are kids accessing from their property nearby.
Well, I would leave that up to the experts to decide how they do that. What's the best way to surveil it. And then, in terms of the rogue trails, Kelly had the comment last meeting we had last month, like last week, that really maybe the best way to work that is from within the groups. If Mount Pisgah is really a jewel to the mountain biking community, and there's a threat of the Northborough piece being shut down, maybe if that word gets out within the mountain biking community, they will do some self-policing. It may not be Brian or his friends that ride bikes, that are conscientious, but it might be some other folks that are connected to the group somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually have any connection with any mountain biking groups, so I'm not part of any group.
You're not a suspect, John. You're fine. It's okay. We're good. We're good.
Well, I'm worried the chief's going to catch me doing something,
I can't tell you, Mr. Chairman, that one of the, we did receive information from a hiker one day that did see a gentleman, an adult, walking down out of Pisgah with a bow saw in his hand. But it was also a rainy, drizzly day, and he was in a rain suit type hunting outfit. So I'm wondering if maybe it's not being done when the weather's inclement and there aren't many hikers on the trail, so there's less likely that they will be found. So I am of the belief that it's being done intentionally, and it's very difficult for someone to walk to detect somebody that might have walking on a hike and on the trail with a backpack isn't holding containing a small bow saw or a small electric pruning saw. But again, there are some steps we haven't taken. But someone said that the key was getting some buy-in from the bike groups and hikers. It's not going to be, the chances are that the police aren't going to identify this person by catching them in the act. It's not going to happen. Right. The folks that use that trail are the people that are going to do it. And I think that we need to empower them to make sure that they take on a stewardship role as well, and report people that are intentionally damaging the trails when it happens. And that's why I'm saying it's like, if you can monitor a parking area, we know when the damage happens. It's a simple matter of looking at license plates on cars. That's a place to start. That's a fairly easy thing to do, but it's a matter of, there's some expense involved, as we had mentioned before.
Yep. Yep.
There are some systems that are better than others. We utilize some other ones, but unfortunately, most of our more expensive ones that are wireless, that alert you instantaneously, are in use in more pressing situations, I would say. So that's
all right.
I do like the reward idea. I think that's useful. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
like
also
the
useful.
reward idea too. That seems to be something that, hasn't been tried, and at least, as people see it when they're going in there, they might be more on the lookout and more apt to react, or at least, pick up the phone if they know it's $500 or something like that on the line, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the young knuckleheads will be more likely to think twice about before they cut anything.
Right. Exactly.
A lot of this stuff with these young guys is just shaming them into behaving. Like all you have to do really is identify them and talk to them, and they'll probably won't do it anymore. This isn't that'll help too. So if there's
there was one other instance where someone did approach someone and they were told they were with the Trails Committee, or they were with the Conservation Commission, and they were cutting down trees.
Yeah, that was fun. There was also.
Yeah. No, you're good.
It must have been Todd.
Todd, that's right. Who's not here?
You just had a guy walking around a chainsaw with Carney amid all the dogs and the people, just saying he was cleaning up. One of your officers called me, Bill, and was like, "Is he allowed to be doing this?" And I'm like, "No."
His first name
Tell
was
him to
Jason.
get off. I don't know.
Well,
It was
so full disclosure, I have been up on the Berlin side with a chainsaw,
I'm
but
sure.
to clear hiking for the purposes of clearing for hiking, because of the winter damage. So I have been up there with a
chainsaw. I was doing trail
Last
maintenance.
possible scenario here, and I know I did have a little bit of discussion with Mir about it, is you want to talk about making trail maintenance up there maybe a little bit easier as far as getting equipment and materials in, and my office's the ability to patrol it would be potential for you to purchase an ATV that's owned by the Conservation Commission, available to the Trails Committee, available to the police department. I'd be more than welcome to maintain it and garage it and make it available to anybody that wants it. Trails of conservation.
I'll just
tried
throw
to
out
get one a few years ago, and CPC, it didn't fly, but it would also need your authorization because you're not supposed to have any motorized vehicles up there.
Yeah, Chief, I find that once people see one ATV track on a landscape, then everybody assumes it's open to ATVs. And then not only will you have a mountain bike problem up there, but now you're gonna have an ATV problem too.
We got a major problem up there now and nothing's being done, so.
Oh, I haven't seen a lot of ATV damage up there.
What's that? No, I'm saying we're having a problem now, but we just don't seem to be able to address it. There's more than one area of conservation land too. I think also when they see a uniformed police officer on it, they might get the message.
We are working on
presence up there.
We are working on raising awareness with the mountain bike community that the road trail building is totally unacceptable. And I think that it's mostly it's ignorance, and it's younger kids not realizing what they're doing has consequence. I think that awareness, signage, and rewards, I think, is an excellent path to trying to accomplish what we're doing, because the vast majority of the active cyclists around New England are just as interested in land conservation and proper usage as everyone else. And it's just a very small percentage that's doing the damage, mostly, I believe, out of ignorance, not necessarily through malicious intent.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah, we've had a problem at a property in the town of Montague out in Western Massachusetts, which with very similar rogue trail building in really sensitive rare species habitat. And people just didn't know any better. And the district manager went out with the mountain biking group, and not only did they stop the work, but they're actually helping the mountain bike groups are starting to help to restore some of the landscape that was damaged. So I think that building those bridges is a good step.
Interesting. Well, Mia, I've got 8:50, 7:45.
So let's figure out what we want to do before next month, if that's okay. So what's the consensus of the commission on a poster with a reward?
I like it personally, and this, it's informal discussion here, so I think that there's been some commentary that supports that.
I think that's it's a good idea. And I would be more than willing to put some of our funds up for a reward and the sign, right along with no mountain biking underneath it.
Okay, so this is stuff I'm going to do in the next month. So I'm going to work on contacting people and trying to start the inventory. Does that sound like a good idea to start the inventory of the trails?
Yes.
And then make a poster. What type of reward do you want to offer?
I think, well, $500 it should be significant enough. I mean, $500 would get people's attention, I would think.
Okay. And the chief can help me write the exact wording to make sure we don't get the town in any trouble.
Yeah, check with Kathy too, because we need to stay within our lane, right?
Yeah, like no camping. People aren't allowed to camp to try to catch people, that kind of thing. So no physical contact. Then we'll move forward with the poster. We'll move forward with the reward. So I do need you to vote to expend funds on the reward and the poster. So I'm pretty sure we can get posters and we can just do it in our normal budget. But then the $500 reward, you'd need to vote to expend that from the conservation fund. The poster will come from your normal printing budget.
Can we
So we
kick
have to
that
vote-
500
we have-
bucks out of the Trails Committee money?
You want to do it out of Trails Committee? You could do it out of Trails Committee. You could do it out of Conservation Fund.
I mean, I'm just volunteering it. Kathy can probably speak to whether that's a proper usage of our fundage, but if it's 500 bucks, then I'm sure we can cover it. I can talk to Bob Mihalik about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, if CPC doesn't want to cover it,
No, we'd have to wait. We'd have to wait to.
Yeah,
But it's
that's not
considered
gonna
land management.
just
Yeah, we've got a number of
volunteering.
different funding pockets here apparently. So let's move ahead with the signage and the $500 reward. You can cover the internal town hall pieces on that, Mia.
Yeah, your normal Conservation Commission budget will cover the poster, but the $500 you should vote to expend from the Conservation Fund. We can always wait till next month too on that. Hold on, Kathy's calling.
Want to go live?
You can't do that.
Or
No.
ride along with a police cruiser? That's always a big seller at the auctions.
What's that?
A ride along with a police cruiser.
Yeah.
It's a great reward at auctions. It makes a lot of money.
No,
Yeah.
that's right.
Except that's been tabled for a while because of distancing, but
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I want to if I put the poster up, we have to know that we can cover the cost.
Kathy, you're unmuted now. Are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yep.
Okay, so you would have to use, I'm not on my laptop, so I don't have a picture, sorry. But you could use, or you should use the conservation fund.
Yes.
You couldn't use the trails money, Brian, because that came from CPC for a very specific use, a nice idea, but it's just have to be the Debbie Downer, but you can use the conservation fund.
No trouble.
Thanks, Kathy. So we do need a vote to spend $500 for reward
Okay,
from the
so
Conservation
We
Fund.
need a motion.
I so
make a
moved.
Sorry. Tom, go ahead.
Second.
I'm going to call it off here. Here we go. Let's start with Diane Gouldner,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne. You're muted, Justin.
Gotcha. Yes.
Tom Beals.
Yes.
Who am I missing? Kelly Marston's muted.
Yes.
And I also will vote yes.
Okay, and then there was discussion about trail cameras. Did you want us to move forward on the purchase of an installation of any trail cameras?
My opinion on that is I think we want to, maybe you and Kathy discuss that with Chief Liver around the surveillance piece and see what comes up with that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that seems like something, I mean, if we chatted about it, kind of put a little thought into that we could use those in other locations too. So it seems like something that might be worthwhile.
We've got the drone, it's kind of tough to fly it up there. But
I think the testing centers are open, so I can move forward on that and get my license. And it looks like that a trail camera is between $100 to $200 each, so it's not like $1,000 purchase.
I think we need a plan, right? Before we go ahead and just start buying one or 50.
Yeah, we'll talk. The chief and I can talk about how many and what locations, and because you also have to have a cellular service attached to it, so we'd have to work that out within town hall.
See what the entire package is for the trail camera piece. On that side.
Maybe we can bring
Um,
that to the next meeting.
Sure, if it's ready, sure, in August. And in terms of the trail mapping, you'll work that with Bob,
Mhm.
Brian, right? The Trails Committee.
And can we go ahead and buy the ATV then? I've got a helmet picked out already. It's pink.
I'd just say give it some serious consideration. It wouldn't be up there all the time, but you know, I think it would make maintenance of the trails for your Trails Committee folks easy. It would make it a whole lot easier for my people to get in and out. And trust me, it's not a joyride. They, you know, it would not be, you know, they would be to get up there and stop and wait and watch and see what comes around. And, you know, one of the other issues that we have going on up there as well is dogs off leash on the trail. So, you know, it would be beneficial on other trails in town too, as like Kearney Park. But that's the end of there. That's, but I think it's a reasonable option in my opinion.
On the agenda too, Mia.
Add it to the next week's agenda.
Yeah. Talk about that. I'm not sure how much we're talking. We're talking like $5,000 or $6,000, one of those.
Yeah, that was at the price about 10 years ago. So
okay, so
I think you're looking at
20
about
grand.
7 or 8.
Okay, 7 or 8. Okay. All right. Any more comments on Mount Pisgah before we leave that subject?
Yes, I think we still need to revisit whether we want to close it to bikes,
All bikes.
all bikes.
Well, it's a radical approach. I think. What do we think, Commission?
I mean, I think from my standpoint, I mean, I think we got to give these things at least a try, see what works. You know, I haven't been up there as much as Tom though. I mean, I know Tom spent a lot of time, you know, trying to pick things apart and take things down. And between him and Todd, I know they spent a ton of time up there. But I feel like we've got a decent approach with a couple of these things that we're going to try, and maybe we just give them a couple months and then kind of revisit it from there. I mean, I think that option is certainly on the table, but maybe if we could just put a good kind of proactive approach together to try to squash this from a couple different angles, maybe we could avoid that.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be getting any fans if we say no biking whatsoever. And I don't know how we would manage that. If I told just my 5 kids no biking, I don't think I could manage that. I think if you have an army of kids that are doing something they're passionate about, it's better to get them to work for you than against you. That would be my best approach, is to show them why they should protect the trail, teach them how to protect the trail, and let them protect the trails. But
Diane, what do you think?
I would go along with what Kelly has to say, because I think the more that you include people into a project, the less likely they are to destroy it.
Okay, and I'm kind of all of those for me. I mean, I'd like to give it a little bit. I mean, Pisgah is a resource that should be used and enjoyed by different types of folks. And I think we need to give it a chance. And if we find the problem still persists in a month or 2 months or 3 months, then we have to look at the difficult option of rolling giant boulders out there. So closing Pisgah down to biking is not off the table for me, but I'd like to find an alternative if we could.
So building on what Kelly was saying, is once we do the trail inventory and we kind of decide if there are areas, which I think there will be, areas we want to naturalize and others we want to accept and certify and put on our maps. Kelly has pointed out like this partnership, and I think Brian too, I think we could reach out to the mountain bike associations, and there's also a national advocacy group. And I think we should have like a work day or a series of work days where we ask the mountain bikers and hikers and really get ownership, like make t-shirts, like the Mountain Bike Advocacy Association, Kelly pointed out, they wear t-shirts that say bike it, protect it. So we could say something like hike it, bike it, protect it, pass out that you show up, you get a t-shirt, you get a water bottle, you work the day, you know, and then they're going to own it. They're going to own what the work they did.
I mean, I think there should be a communication plan. It should start with the internal groups, whether it's the NEBA group Brian, or whatever the bike group is there. The word should get out, whether it's social media or whatever, that shutting down Pisgah is being discussed by the Northborough Concom. And, you know, it's got to be resolved. At the same time, maybe an article in some newspaper to help out. Just the same thing, that this is on the table, folks. My 2 cents. So Tom, there's your answer. I think there's not a consensus right now, but it's not, I don't think it's totally off the table, at least for me.
No, that's fine. And I'm going to bring it up every meeting until
it's done.
We come up with a solution, but I'm going to bring it up every meeting.
Fair enough.
So that it's going to be in the minutes and everybody's going to be aware that it's going to be a topic for discussion, closing Mount Pisgah to all biking. And it'll be every meeting.
The word has to get out. And you know, me, I don't want to draw, it's a very tough analogy, but we just went through something like this with disc golf, where we had a group of folks that were very much in favor of it, working forward, and they had a renegade group within their group that caused it to be shut down. So hope that doesn't happen here.
As far as outreach, we could reach out to the community advocate. I don't know if you're ready yet, or if you want to wait another month till we meet again, put some things in place. It's up to you.
I would start right now. I would go to the Advocate and the Middlesex News.
I'd probably you're gonna put the reward in there too, Mia?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
So Community Advocate, Metro West Daily News.
Okay. Are we done with the subject matter?
Probably not.
I want to thank our guests for coming.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing your perspective here.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you. Yes.
Let's hope we get this resolved.
Yeah.
Super. All right.
All right. And just reach out to me whenever you need to.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna sign off.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everybody.
Okay, bye, John.
You good with me?
We're all set with you, Chief. Mir will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, Liz. Thank you. Okay, who's left here? Kathy Ju. Should we let Kathy hang around or get rid of her? She's your boss. We'll keep her around. So
no comment.
All right. So that's that. I think we're done. So next month, August, we've got we'll probably see the Maple Lane Garage come in. We will see who else? Somebody else wants to build a garage in a wetland.
Church Street. The Church Street garage has already been in.
Sidewalk that before that.
And before we close out, we need to talk about Wayne.
Okay.
To get him? Is that your question?
What was that, Diane?
What to get for him?
Kelly, did you end up getting a gift certificate? Oh, you're muted.
Muted.
No, I can get a gift certificate. I just didn't know how much you wanted or if you wanted for that.
Can you tell them what your idea is?
Lifetime ice cream. Lifetime ice cream for Wayne Baldelli.
No. So my parents live down in Sandwich, and I know where he just bought a house is near them. And so they gave me some ideas on great restaurants. There's one right down on the canal, and I know he likes fishing. There's Bobby Burns, which is known, it's named after an Irish golfer, but great food. So I didn't know
commercials too.
Give him some gift certificates for down the Cape because that's more personal.
Good idea. So Mia's going to collect the money.
Yep. So we're thinking, you think that's a good idea? Restaurant gift certificate for Sandwich. He'll also get a plaque from the town.
I would say either that or golfing. One of the two. Those he likes to do. He's down the Cape, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd like to go for dinner. So.
Okay.
Works for me.
All right.
So Mia, you're going to collect it. Did we put a number on the number, or is it anybody, whatever anybody wants to do?
We haven't put a number yet since there's 6 commissioners and me. So if you're okay with everybody doing $20 or even 30, I mean, it's up to you. What do you think? We could do a $150 gift certificate if we each did like 35.
I'm okay with whatever. Let's pick a number.
150 works.
150. All right.
Fine.
Okay, divide that by 6. So what are we doing? 25 each? 25
Yep.
each. Okay.
We have each.
All
So
right,
Kelly,
very
what
good.
What's
do
the
you,
best way to get that to you, Mia? Then drop
should-
it off.
we should mail it to Kelly because it's just, this is
Okay.
informal. This is personal, you know. What's your address, Kelly?
159 Pleasant.
159.
159.
Mm-hmm.
You have Venmo, Kelly?
Somebody just ripped the front of my mailbox
Ooh,
off.
do you have
today.
Venmo?
I don't have Venmo. No.
Okay.
Wait, what was your address again, Kelly?
159 Pleasant Street.
Okay. Because this is just from us personally.
Mhm.
And then if, you know, I'll buy a thank you card. And if you each want to email me a message, I'll write it. I'll handwrite the message into the card because I don't know if
And
we
then
can.
he'll get a plaque for his service at the next town meeting, right? 2021.
I think so. I'll
I
double
think it's how it
check.
usually works. I think they
Yeah.
award the plaques at town meeting.
We acknowledge people at town meeting. I'm not sure if the plaques will be ready because he resigned like very close to town meeting. So I'm not sure if they had the plaque ready, but he'll get a plaque.
What about replacement?
After town meeting, we'll do because the town administrator's office is just swamped with town meeting, which has been I think it's soon. It's very soon. So
Saturday.
once it's
Isn't it Saturday?
over, we'll put out an advertisement.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. Hey, wait a
And-
second. How about this? How about Wayne's gift certificate is dependent on us catching the violators?
He'll never get it. He'll never get it. So we'll each send Kelly $25 to her home. She'll get the gift certificate. If everyone could email me, you know, even if it's just like best of luck, Justin, I'll put it in there, you know, email Mia a message. I'm just writing all this down so I don't forget. And then I'll make sure we get the plaque. And then the last thing is, you know, if there is any movement before the next meeting, I would like, now when we contact people to apply for Wayne's position, we're not giving them any preference. They have to interview, like Kelly knows, they have to interview through the Board of Selectmen and Greg. And so we don't get to select them, but we can encourage people to apply. And so if you have any names of people you want me to reach out to, or you can even personally reach out to them, you know, let me know. I'll send you, usually Diane, she's up in the town manager's office. She does a little blurb, or we can direct them to the website where the opening is and they can apply.
Okay.
So I'd love to see a farmer apply. I'd love to see minorities apply. It would be nice to see some minorities represented on some of our boards. And this isn't saying that they'll get on, it's just get them in the pool to apply.
My new neighbors across the street that live in the middle of the swamp are minorities.
There you go.
They live in the middle of the
Preserve their front yard.
Yep. A
Oh, come on.
pond
It's the edge of
person.
the swamp. It's the edge of the swamp, Kelly. It's not
Uh-huh.
the middle of the swamp.
We changed the rules afterwards.
Okay. Anything else? Mia, when do you want to put a date around all this stuff for Wayne?
As soon as possible, if we get out in the next week, you know.
Say by next Friday? Is that
Yeah.
too long?
That's a good idea. We'll do it in a week by Friday.
By next Friday.
By Friday, July 17th. That's good because I'm going on vacation. That is the other thing. I'll be on vacation July 20th.
Where are you
so-
going?
To
Again.
Narragansett. My parents rent that big house in Narragansett, and we all descend upon them like flies. So, Kelly, I'll bring the card to you before then. Does anybody have Wayne's new address? No, I'll call him.
No.
I think I can get it.
I'll just give him a call.
Nobody's private in the registry.
Yeah, really. Okay, super. Anything else before we break?
Let me look at the agenda. I don't think so. Nope, it's wrong mouse.
Kelly, sorry we didn't make 7:30.
That's okay.
Oh,
Okay. All right. Need a
All right.
motion.
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Second,
Gotta take a call here.
Diane,
Diane Goldner,
yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
yes.
And I also vote yes. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, David Kane in the background. Thank you, Mia.
Yes.
Thanks,
thank
all
you, David.
commissioners. Have a good several weeks. We'll see you in August.
All right.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you.
Good
Yeah,
night.
good night.
Good night.